I call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge for August 9th, 2021. Trustee Schiappa, would you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into our agenda, I'd like to take a moment of silence for the death of a Chicago policewoman, Ella French, who was lost in the last couple of days in the line of duty. The first female officer, the first officer to be killed in a few years. That's a good thing, but unfortunately it's a bad thing when this happens. So I take a moment of silence in her memory. Thank you. Also, we want to extend our prayers and thoughts to the other injured officer. His name is Carlos Yanez. He's 40 years old, 6 years on the job. As all of you know, he was seriously wounded and still fighting for his life. Officer Yanez is the brother of Burr Ridge officer Brian Gutierrez. So a little special reason why we need to keep him in our prayers and thoughts tonight. With that, Chief, I'm sorry, we'll do the roll call. Go ahead, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Here.
Trustee Schiappa?
Here.
Trustee Paveza?
Here.
Trustee Snyder?
Here.
Trustee Mattel? Here. Trustee Smith?
Here.
Mayor Grasso?
Here.
All present.
That takes us to 3 presentations and public hearings. A, presentation of the 2020 Annual Police Report. Chief Madden.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, I'm going to provide you with a summary, some highlights of the report. The report, our annual report, is posted on the village website and was distributed to the board initially. It's approximately 25 pages, so I'm going to provide you a summary of the report, some of the highlights. First one. For 2020, which was a unique year with the pandemic and civil unrest, which we'll get into in slides coming up, we responded to 12,105 calls for service. It is normally low for us, and I'll get into why that it was the case. We had a total of 1,711 traffic stops that were recorded. Again, that is a low number for 2020. But overall, violent crimes continue to remain low in the village of Burr Ridge, and we'll get into that too. Property crimes have decreased over the past 3 years. Another highlight is in 2020, we received our 4th national reaccreditation, and that makes 5 total for the police department since 2007. In 2020, like I said, it was a challenging year for law enforcement and us in Burr Ridge. We had the pandemic that we dealt with. I'm sorry?
Is your microphone covered?
It wasn't, no.
Thank you.
And we had periods of civil unrest that we assisted in mutual aid throughout the county. Next slide, please. So once again, that's our call for service history. You can see in 2020, we're lower with 12,000. We average, 5-year average, our normal average is around 19,500. In 2020, we had significant changes to protocol and responding to calls and not responding to calls to keep the officers safe. And with quarantine that was in effect, nobody was out. So there's much less calls for service. I looked at the numbers where we're at now for 2021 and what we're recording as year-to-date in August. We're going to be right around in between 18,000 and 20,000 calls for service. So we're going back to where we normally are. Next, please. This is a comparison. Back in February, I gave the board a pretty detailed report on crime statistics for 2020. This is basically a comparison, a snippet out of our annual report that shows you, number one, the downward trend here in property crimes, and then you can see violent crimes are single digits. So they remain very low in the village. Next, please. One notable event in 2020, President Trump then issued an executive order on safe policing for safe communities. And in that executive order, he mandated that law enforcement agencies' use of force policies conform to a national standard. The mandate was in reference to basically having officers act if they see something wrong, just to make sure that there is no blue wall of silence. So the president issued the executive order. Our policies, what the protocol was for this was, once the policies were modified, they were to be reviewed either by CALEA, our accrediting body, or the Illinois Law Enforcement Standards and Training Board. So with our policy being an accredited agency, very little change. We had some language, but we already met what the standard was in the executive order. COVID-19 in 2020 was definitely a challenge for us at Burr Ridge Police Department. We instituted many temporary procedures on how we responded to calls for service, and that was to keep our officers safe. We restricted entry into the police facility, as a lot of government facilities did, and we created many new safety protocols to keep our officers and civilian employees safe. The police department employees did not work from home in 2020, sworn or civilian. They reported every day for duty without hesitation. We are also grateful for the many donations, personal protective equipment that we received last year from businesses and citizens within the village. We received a lot of hand sanitizer too, which we still have on hand. We're very happy to report that we had no workplace transmissions of COVID-19. We had 2 officers come down with COVID-19 last year. Both were unrelated to their duties here in Burr Ridge. They contracted that COVID-19 while they were away from the PD. Next, please. Civil unrest. We stayed busy, not only keeping an eye on our town, but assisting other jurisdictions. And these 2 officers here, Detective Lou Moravicek, responded to over 30 requests for assistance as a member of the NIPUS Mobile Field Force, which we are a member of. Officer Brian Gutierrez was deployed as a member of the Illinois National Guard to assist in the city of Chicago, and he was also deployed for an extended time in Washington, D.C. So, a very challenging time for us. These 2 officers did a great job. I'm very proud of them. Another notable program that we started in 2020 was our flock public safety wing camera program. There's 18 homeowners associations currently that are in partnership with the Village of Burr Ridge that have video surveillance cameras deployed at their entrance and exits. And out of those cameras, 52 of them throughout those 18 homeowners associations are integrated with the flock wing interface. And what that does is it those captures, those IP-based video cameras capture license plate data as vehicles pass through their field of view. It gives us the opportunity not only to identify stolen vehicles, wanted persons that are registered to the vehicle, but it gives us the ability to program information into the database so we can get a hit on a vehicle that we're looking for that has a license plate or the description of the vehicle itself. And I can tell you on one case that came in extremely helpful was alleged stalking case that we had on the north side of town. And we put the individual's license plate and vehicle description in there, and we were notified when he passed in front of those cameras. So the officers were able to get over there pretty quick. Overall, a very successful program. Next. CLIA accreditation, as I said earlier, in 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic, we had our on-site visit and audit of our records to get our fourth reaccreditation. We are extremely proud that we've been a CLIA accredited agency since 2007, and there are many benefits. It reduces the liability for the municipality as well as the officers, and we get Village of Burr Ridge gets financial incentives from our liability insurance provider, which is IRMA. Next, please. We had some personnel turnover in 2020. We've had 3 officers retire from the department. Sergeant Luke Volpo retired after 25 years of service, and Sergeant Michael Barnes retired after 24 years of service. Corporal Michelle Glasky had a duty-related disability retirement. It was a forced retirement. She sustained injuries that prevented her from being a law enforcement officer. She was got into a fight with a suspect and had major injuries to her arm and hand. So that was a disability retirement. And along with retirements, we've had 3 promotions. We promoted 3 corporals to the rank of sergeant. Michael Fernson, Robert Wish, and John Helms were all promoted in 2020. Next. We also had new hires that you were able to meet last month. Officer Travis Madler, Patrick O'Kelly, Robert Dimitru, and Mary Murphy were all sworn in last month in front of the board. They were all hired in 2020. Some big changes to the department. In 2020, we implemented a 12-hour shift schedule. This was we discussed this for a couple years with the officers and supervisors. We did a trial period of the schedule, and it turned out that it was overwhelmingly accepted by the officers. And we are also pleased to report that we did an analysis of overtime and sick leave during the trial period, and there were no increases compared to previous years. We were on an 8-hour schedule. So it was a success all the way around. So after moving into, actually just prior to moving into that 12-hour schedule, we had to do an analysis and a study of our rank structure to provide accurate supervision out in the street in the patrol division. And the result of that analysis was we were able, on my recommendation, we eliminated the corporal rank. In a department our size, I didn't feel the need that we needed a corporal rank. I thought sergeants would be sufficient and officers in charge. And what we did was we increased 1 sergeant position, eliminated the corporal rank. We went down from 9 supervisors, including me and the deputy chief, down to 7. There was no reduction in sworn positions. This was just a change in the rank structure. There was a small savings to the village on an annual basis, and that's approximately $20,000 a year, changing that structure. We utilize officers in charge in the absence of the sergeant, which is the watch commander. When a patrol officer acts as an officer in charge, they're compensated for that time that they're acting as a watch commander. And that is by their collective bargaining agreement also. And so far, it's a very successful program. 2020, just wanted to go over some of the awards that we gave out. We gave out 4 Meritorious Service Awards. All the officers' names are up there on the screen. We gave out 1 commendation, 2 life-saving awards, and 3 honorable mentions. And believe it or not, in 2020, we had 5 perfect attendance awards that year. So that was really good to see. I think it was the most we've had in a long time. Next, please. We've had 6 officers honored for their efforts in DUI enforcement. Sergeant Fernson, Officer Cervenka, Officer Gutierrez, Officer Valentino, Officer Overton, and Officer Lesniak. This certificate of appreciation was awarded to the officers by AIM, the Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists. This is an annual review that AIM does, and they honor those officers out there that are taking those intoxicated drivers off the road. A lot of good work by these officers.
Questions?
That's it. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Guy?
There's no questions, I have a comment.
Let's see if there's a question or two. Any question from the public? Comment?
I want to thank the Burr Ridge Police Force, all the officers, all the administrators, all the staff, chief, deputy chief, for their distinguished service, keeping, as frontline workers, providing safety and security for the residents of our fine village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Tony.
Also want to commend the police department. When I'm out and about in the village, I do talk with our neighbors, our residents, who have all commended the police presence in our neighborhoods. They feel safe. I did talk to a new resident that moved into the area that commented on when they were looking in areas of Lamont, Hinsdale, and Darien, they saw more police officers when they were looking at homes here in Burr Ridge, which contributed to their decision to move here, is that safety. So I know me and my family feel safe here, and so do our neighbors. So thank you, and the Burr Ridge Police Department.
I just want to thank the police department and chief for doing such a fine job with the department, and we all feel very secure, and you know, you always are on top of everything, so we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can tell you personally, I want to just relate my personal experience. I actually spent a Sunday afternoon, I think, with the chief down at the police department when there was a possibility of problems around the western suburbs that happened in a couple of other villages but did not happen here. I can tell you that the chief had contingency plans, had backup, had everything ready. And I will tell you also that I got calls and emails from not only residents but business owners when they saw the squad cars actually at the Cloverleaf intersection with lights on that weekend. That was something they commented on as glad to see it. So despite what the police have gone through this last year throughout the nation, by some people who are attacking the police, I think the overwhelming majority of people that live in Burr Ridge, people that live in Illinois and America, understand and appreciate what you guys and you ladies do every day for us. And it's good to see how professional the police department here is in Burr Ridge. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I got to thank Deputy Chief Loftus, too. When we talk about accreditation, 95% of the work is Mark. We don't have a big staff, as you know, so he's also very instrumental in preparing reports. A couple sergeants help us out, so it definitely is a team effort, and we all appreciate the support from the board and you, Mayor, and Evan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That takes us to item 4, the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, discussed by the board, opened for public comment, and voted upon during this meeting. 5, minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of July 26, 2021. B, receive and file plan commission of August 2nd, 2021. 6, ordinances. A, approval of an ordinance granting.
Remove.
Remove, okay.
Thank you.
Sure. 6B, approval of an ordinance rezoning property from the R1 residential district to the R2A residential district, Z10, 2021. 6547 County Line Road, Klein. 7C, resolutions. Approval of a resolution approving and authorizing the execution Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network Agreement. And 8, considerations. D, approval of recommendation to award the 2021-2022 Parkway Tree Removal Contract to Smitty's Tree Service of Alsip, Illinois, in the amount of $747. Excuse me. E, approval of an agreement regulating video surveillance cameras for the Burr Ridge Club. F, approval of recommendation to hire an intern in the Public Works Department. G, receive and file letter of intent to retire of Finance Director Jerry Sapp. And H, approval of vendor list dated August 9, 2021 in the amount of $258,415.88 for all funds, plus $172,150.66 for payroll for the period ending July 24, 2021, for a grand total of $430,566.54, which includes no special expenditures. With that, can I get a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? 5A and B, 6B, 7C, 8D, E, F, G, and H.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Roll call, please.
Trustee Chiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Takes us to 6A on the consent agenda, approval of an ordinance granting special use approval for a restaurant with amended outdoor dining, Z06-2021, 114 Burr Ridge Parkway, Salamone. Trustee Francis?
Thank you. I have to have this removed from the consent agenda because last week I was made aware of an incident, I was made aware by staff of an incident at County Line Square that involved this petitioner and another business owner. So I'm requesting that this ordinance be tabled until the next board meeting so that the board can have a full summary of what transpired.
Okay.
Evan, do you have any additional information you could provide at this time?
No, we've made attempts to reach out to the business today and over the weekend. We haven't been able to make sufficient contact with the business owner at this time.
I can verify that too. The chief brought me up to speed. So with that, there's a motion to table this item. Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's granted. That item's tabled to the next board meeting, which is August 23rd. All right, that takes us to resolutions. Consideration of a resolution recognizing Julie Tikowski for 20 years of dedicated service. I am certainly going to read this one. Whereas Julie Tikowski did on August 1st, 2021 mark her 20th year of employment with the Village of Burr Ridge, and whereas Julie Tikowski has served in multiple roles with the village during her years of service, including that of community development and engineering administrative assistant, building and zoning assistant, and executive assistant. And whereas Julie Tikowski has dedicated herself to the professional and courteous service of residents in countless manners, including the management of all building department functions, occupancy license, and support for petitioners at the Plan Commission. And whereas Julie Tikowski, in her role as building and zoning assistant, was integral in the issuance of the many permits and certificates of occupancy during the development of the Burr Ridge Village Center. And whereas Julie Tikowski is a valued colleague supporting other employees through her work on the Employee Personnel Committee and the Wellness Committee. And whereas Julie Tikowski manages the village's human resource programs, risk management services, and benefits coordination. And whereas Julie Tikowski has further served the Village of Burr Ridge by assisting the village administrator, mayor, and board of trustees in many administrative capacities. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and board of trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge, Cook, and DuPage Counties, Illinois, that Julie Tikowski shall hold a place of esteem in the minds and hearts of the residents, businesses, and employees of the village, and is offered our sincere congratulations on the completion of 20 years of service to the Village of Burr Ridge. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations. We're lucky to have many people in this village, but we're especially lucky to have Julie Tikowski. I can speak from personal experience for many years. So, that takes us to B, consideration of resolution recognizing retirement of Jerry Sapp after 25 years of dedicated service. I was told Mr. Sapp would not be here tonight. We've all have the resolution. It's quite lengthy and recognizes all of his accomplishments. We'll make it available to the press and to him, but I don't think we need, especially tonight with the weather, to take the time. But I will read the last part of it, which is a summation of it, which says, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and board of trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge, Cook and DuPage Counties, Illinois, that Jerry Sapp shall hold a place of esteem in the minds and hearts of the residents, businesses, and employees of the village, and has offered our sincere congratulations on his retirement. So now, however, I need a motion to approve the resolution recognizing retirement of Jerry Sapp after 25 years of dedicated service.
So move.
Second?
We have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Okay. That takes us to 8 considerations. 8A, consideration to receive and file letter of resignation of Louisa Hawk from the Plan Commission, Pathway Commission, and Bicycle Committee. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. These are previously were on the consent agenda. However, it's become the new tradition of the board to leave them off consent to allow time for just comments, remarks, and any other types of recognition and service of the volunteer. Thank you.
Who wants to start? Tony?
Well, I know Louisa, she came to me about starting a committee about regarding bicycles. So she was very instrumental in getting that committee started. She had a lot of energy and a lot of ideas to get the committee started and going. And then later I learned not only is she there, but she's on the Pathway Commission, on the Planning Commission, and I just commended the amount of committees that she's involved with the Village of Burr Ridge and how much time she spent with the village. So I appreciate it. I understand she's moving out of town. I'm sorry to see her leave. She's a volunteer that really had her heart in the village.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Anyone else? Yes.
I've known Louisa from my Gower days, Gower school days, and she's always cheerful, very energetic, and she's done a lot for the village. But Russ and I had a very nice experience with us. She walked door to door when we were campaigning, and very well received by all the residents. So we will be sad to see her go, but we wish her the very best.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Yes, Guy?
So Louisa was appointed to the Plan Commission in January of 2013 to replace my seat when I left the Plan Commission to ascend to this board. And I was always impressed how well prepared she was in her Plan Commission assignments. She always did her homework, she visited the sites, and she was always well prepared for the meetings and actively participated in Plan Commission discussions. So I commend her for that. She always did ask the difficult questions of petitioners. She wasn't shy, she wasn't bashful, and she would call them to task if she felt something wasn't right for the village. So we're going to lose a great asset to the Plan Commission and a great asset to the village with her volunteerism and her spirit. And I want to thank Lisa for all of her dedicated service on the Plan Commission, on the Bicycle Committee, and also the Pathway Commission, and everything else she did for the village to help. Thank you, Louisa.
Anyone else? I'll just finish up by saying I've had a long history with Louisa, and she was always professional. She was always prepared, as Guy said, and she was always willing to ask the question that maybe someone didn't want to ask. And then she was also willing to take the position that if she felt strongly about something, even if it wasn't in the majority. And then she was respectful if she didn't win that vote and moved on, and set a real role model, I think, for how you should act when you're either on a committee, on a commission, or even coming to this board. So she is an asset to wherever she's going, and we are losing an asset, but someone who has contributed to this village, and one of the reasons we are a very special place. So we wish Louisa Hawk a lot of luck. Okay, so we will receive and file that letter of recommendation. And we need a motion? Okay. Can I get a motion to receive and file a letter of resignation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's granted. Okay, B, consideration of amendments to temporary tent program regulations. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. In July 26th board meeting, the board directed staff to place this item on today's agenda. The purpose of the discussion and this agenda item is to implement regulations regarding the prohibition of outdoor music at temporary tents in the village. There are 4 temporary tents currently in use in the village: Patty's, Kirsten's, Capri, and Eddie Merlot's. The main purpose of the discussion was to limit the use of outdoor music at those tents. Additionally, we've received input from several of those tent users about extending the tent program to the end of September. Currently, it's lasting to the end of August through board action. As Cook and DuPage counties have both revised mask guidance to promote the use of mask wearing indoors. So again, they're asking to extend the tent program for 1 month to the end of September at this time. All these actions can be done by vote. There's no written policy that we need to amend. Thank you.
Any questions?
Question. Yes. So we'll be prohibiting amplified outdoor electronic music, correct? Whether it be a live band or a DJ or such. Yeah, so.
Correct.
Right.
And that was what I had suggested. I do support the extension of the 10th program till September. I did look at what the Plan Commission reviewed with respect to modifying our noise ordinance. And until that's approved, until that's enforced, until it's tested, this may be a quicker solution to get this in place. So I'm sure that ordinance, that modification to the noise ordinance will work out fine. It looks good. However, I think we need to do something now to prohibit any more noise complaints from nearby residents.
I don't know if we'll be able to stop the complaints, but I think you're right. We'll stop the outdoor music that's amplified.
That's what I meant.
Right. So, yes,
If
Russ.
I could just a little clarification, I understand the bands, I understand the DJ, but are we restricting them for even using, piped in music from outside as well, from a radio?
In the tents?
Yeah,
I don't know that they are doing it.
I don't know.
You mean like background music?
correct.
I don't believe
I
so.
Restricting that.
wouldn't think so, but does anybody?
That's not the intent.
I
Okay,
I haven't heard any music in the tents.
I'm not sure that I have. I mean, someone,
not even at Capri? Okay. I mean, we want these businesses to succeed. I get
Right.
the loud noise and all that, but if it sounds like we are limiting all types of music.
right, and it would also allow, like, I think there was an event where somebody came with a harp. And I think it was a harp, right? It was a harp. And I think, that would be allowed, it's not amplified.
Okay. Fine. Good.
So can I get a motion to approve the amendments to the temporary tent program?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 6-0, that passes. That takes us to consideration C, consideration of establishment of a business development district. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be presenting tonight along with Assistant to the Public Works Director Andres Beltran on this new initiative that's been put forward and recommended by the Economic Development Committee. This has been something they've been working on for the past year to work on strengthening the village's economy, specifically the downtown. About a year ago, the village brought on board S.B. Friedman from Chicago to help study the concept of a business district in our downtown here in the village. I want to begin by first stating what is a business development district. So BDD, I'm going to be referring to it as the district in my discussion tonight. So a district is a tool available to Illinois municipalities to aid in the development of targeted areas. So unlike a TIF district, a district receives revenue through sales and hotel taxes, not property taxes. We are in no way discussing a property tax increase in any portion of the village tonight this evening. This is about a discussion of a sale and hotel taxes. Because we are not discussing property taxes, no other taxing bodies are affected by this decision tonight or any other decisions there forward. So business districts, if I may, are set up in such a manner to establish a boundary in a specific area where a municipality wishes to target it and from an economic development perspective. In the case of this district, we're calling it the downtown district. This is located in downtown Burr Ridge. Downtown Burr Ridge is defined by these orange lines on the map in front of you. So again, this excludes Lakeside Point, it excludes Chasemore, and excludes some of the frontage parcels on 55, but it includes the Village Center, County Line Square, the TCF parcel, the offices, Marriott, as well as a number of other offices in the area here. So again, downtown Burr Ridge, the way we think of it in most cases, is defined as the district here. Through the establishment of a sale and hotel taxes, villages and municipalities can increase revenue and attract revenue that can be used to produce economic developments of their choosing. They can also use that money for public improvements of their choosing. So there are a wide variety of items that can be used in this revenue to promote development in a downtown such as ours. Again, these are things like building roads, building utilities, buying land, assembling land, demolishing buildings, building buildings, renovating existing buildings, refurbishing existing buildings. There's a wide variety of items that these costs could be used on if it were to be established. There are several nearby communities who have established a district for economic development reasons, and 3 of them are very near us: Willowbrook, Lombard, and LaGrange Park. In Willowbrook, the new Pete's Market was established due to an economic development agreement that was established by a business district, such as this. And as we've all seen, it's been a very successful development for the Willowbrook so far. Lombard has 2, which encompass the entirety of Yorktown Mall. Again, a significant amount of sales taxes come through that property, and so they want to establish incentives to keep that property being the lifeblood of their community. LaGrange Park has put 4 smaller districts in their community to do targeted development of existing retail properties within their community. Blue Island put one all over Western Avenue, and the balance of their downtown primarily used to increase public investment in the downtown. They have less of a private investment, more of a focus on public investment. So again, these can be focused either on private and or public investments in a targeted area. The board in October 2020 commissioned SB Friedman to perform a feasibility study to create a district plan and as to the eligibility to establish a district. There are several items that we have to meet regarding state law to establish these. We can't just simply set one up. We have to determine eligibility for these areas. In support of this finding, SB Friedman found that the downtown assessed property values grew more slowly than those compared to the rest of the village. So they found actually negative growth in property values downtown over the last 5 years compared to the rest of the village. The rest of the village saw about 20% growth in assessed property values. So while the village itself as a whole is in very good economic shape from a property value perspective, they found that downtown from an EAV perspective, they were not growing as fast. And again, some years they found economic growth was negative. They also found that there was a non-existent or inadequate street layout present or adjoining all parcels. So again, that's simply the presence of a lack of street crossings, a lack of signalized intersections, a lack of signs, a lack of proper wayfinding, or simply a lack of capacity in some cases to effectuate proper traffic flow within our downtown. They found that present in all adjoining parcels in the downtown. They also found that there was some deterioration of site improvements observed at almost 3/4 of all the parcels within the proposed district. This is defined as deteriorating parking lots, deteriorating buildings, other elements of the property that may be considered deteriorating under state law. And again, each of these observations are part of a legal test to determine a proposed area's eligibility for establishment of a district. In summary, I want to be clear about this, there's a very strong legal and economic basis for the establishment of a district in downtown Burr Ridge, such as displayed on your map. We meet most of the factors that we need to meet there. Again, the establishment of a district in the downtown would provide the village with a reliable stream of revenue exclusively available to be spent on a wide array of improvements in that same area. So again, if a sales tax was generated in downtown Burr Ridge, it may only be spent within that geographic area. If a sales tax for the district were levied at Capri, it could not be spent down on 83rd Street or in Babson Park, because these are economic areas which are defined. They have to be spent within those areas so that those areas can receive the economic and public infrastructure value needed to recoup investment in those areas. Again, we're trying to grow the tax base, grow investment, and promote overall downtown development here in the village with this item. We project on the staff side that the village would collect over $800,000 in district revenue in the upcoming full fiscal year, FY23. We're in FY22 right now, which expires on April 30th, 2022. Starting May 1st, 2022 to April 30th, 2023, we would project about $800,000 in revenue that would be used only for district purposes. And again, those monies cannot be spent on pensions or debt or anything like that. They have to be spent on real economic development items in that mapped area. SB Freeman analysis has said we could experience up to $50 million in revenue over the 23-year lifespan of a district. And again, the maximum district's lifespan is 23 years. That's not an arbitrary number. That's simply the maximum lifespan at hand. The reason why 50 million was used is because it's an upper echelon projection of what we feel like could be generated downtown. If we were to generate 50 million and $1, the district would cease to exist because we've met our goal of the revenue, and that's why we're shooting a little high on that side. I think it's unlikely we'd hit 50 million, but if we did, I think we'd consider that a success if we got that much growth out of a downtown. And again, eligible uses of funds include the creation of studies or plans. So actually the district plan itself that you paid for last October could be paid back by the district if it were enacted. We can buy property, we can clear and grade land, we can demo buildings, we can install or repair infrastructure such as water lines, pathways, street lights, curbs, gutters, sewers, stormwater, anything downtown which is a utility that's owned publicly. Renovating existing buildings or constructing new buildings, the ability to borrow money against revenues from the district. So if we wanted to take out debt, we could. It's not something we're advising on a staff side, but we could do it legally. We could also reimburse any costs related to implementing a plan. So if there were legal costs or costs such as this, they'd be paid back. I want to quickly bring up the timeline about what this would look like should we want to pursue the adoption of a district. So tonight we're having the initial consideration of the district, the discussion of the proposed tax levy. And again, it's not a property tax levy. That is the EDC's recommendation for a 1% sales and hotel tax downtown. On August 23rd, on consent, there would simply be an approval of a public hearing ordinance to establish a public hearing for this district on September 13th, your first meeting in September. We do have to have a public hearing to establish such a district. On the 13th, we would have the public hearing for the district and an ordinance establishing a district if that was the direction of the board. And of course, the board has the authority to not vote this in if they want to. I want to be clear that the district that we're talking about here solely relies and derives on the power of the village. We do not need to get okays from a school district or park district or any other taxing body the way we might with a TIF district. If this were implemented, this would be at the sole discretion of the board, and the monies that were received through a district would be at the sole power of the board, meaning that you're the only body that has the power to delegate these funds for items you see fit. And if it is approved on September 13th, we suggest on the staff level between September and April 22 that we have discussion of zoning or comp plan amendments as well as discussion of financial incentive policies. So again, there's some downtown zoning which may not be compatible with modern development. Most of our downtown is actually zoned industrial, which is not necessarily compatible with downtown development nowadays. We'd also want to have a discussion of financial incentive policies, meaning to say, what would the board like to attract? What would the board like to spend its money on or not spend its money on? There may be things that are possibly inadvisable or not wanted to be spent on by the board. Again, this is your discussion, this is your discretion that you have to go on either way here. So again, the action tonight is simply discussing that concept at hand. The action item tonight would be to direct staff to place an item on the August 23rd meeting to establish an ordinance establishing a public hearing on September 13th. One of the items that we've already discussed with new EDC Chair Trustee Schiappa and Vice Chair Trustee Smith would be to have the September 1st EDC meeting act as an open house for any downtown parties that would want to come and learn more about this district who may not be able to make a board meeting on one of those dates. Since it has been an EDC item and it's been an EDC foundling, if you will, we would want to make that meeting available to the public per their direction. I've thrown a lot at you. I'm sure you have some questions. We can certainly leave some time for comments and questions here. I will yield back to the mayor for further discussion. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with the board. Questions from any of the trustees? Yes, Joe?
I think it's a great concept. Bring it up, let the residents build the economic. It's gonna be fabulous.
Anyone else?
I agree. I think the future for Burridge is to grow, and this is a great, we're taking a great direction by pursuing something like this and reinvesting the dollars generated by the center in its growth. So,
If I may. So hats off to the Economic Development Committee staff, you, Mayor. It's a great concept. When I start seeing the ability to potentially tax goods and services, it does kind of remind me that we as a board here also have some higher obligations that we need to look at the same time, I believe. We have a police pension that is not discussed a whole lot. We have debt obligation that's coming due very soon, and I almost feel that this is the opportunity right now to look at some of the higher obligations at the same time meeting the needs of this development. And I'm gonna ask if there's a way we can get a workshop together or something where we can spend some good quality time to potentially really hammer out something that will benefit our village, not just 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but we have the ability right now, if we're gonna have this discussion with our residents, to really make a significant impact to this village and to take on some really tough challenges. The police pension and our debt. So if there's a way that we could do that as a group, that's my proposal. But I do love the concept, I love the work that's been put into it, but I just think the door's open right now. If we're gonna talk about tax levies and things of that nature, we should probably open up everything and take a look at it.
Yes, Al?
As I was reading this, I just want to make sure that when you look at what we're planning on doing, and I just want to make sure that we're not helping the private people that own the property develop an area to make it more valuable. I assume like it had raising buildings. Is that going to be on our property, or are we going to pay for it? On some of these items, I'm just not sure on how much of it is going to be applied and will, in the long run, make private property more valuable.
So as a member of the Economic Development Committee, I was part of the conversations, the questions, and then obviously learning about this business development district. And what I enjoyed learning about the neighboring communities that participate in this, Willowbrook, Lombard, and LaGrange Park. And you can see that growth, especially right next door in Willowbrook, of what's happening at Plainfield and Route 83. And unfortunately, Burridge, we don't have that exposure of Route 83. We've got to do something else to bring those tax dollars in. And so that's why I'm in favor for this district. It's something that will reinvest in our downtown area to make our downtown area special. And, you know, I have visions of people going from hotel to restaurants. Maybe this district can pay for like a weekend trolley system, you know, bringing people around from hotels to restaurants. It's just an idea, but it's something to separate us from the other villages, and we become the destination. And so I think a district like this, carving this out and creating it, will help us in the long run and bring more sales dollars, which will help us with our police pension and our debt as well. Thank you.
Yes, Guy?
So, Evan, could you clarify what Al was speaking about, how that mechanism works?
So to clarify, I believe your question was the process for how
Well, the process, we're going to invest money in doing certain things. Now, our money is going to make things look better, and in the long run, are we helping to improve private property and make it more valuable? That's the only thing I'm asking, is our money applying to that? Like one of the things you had, raising a building, was that on our property, was that on a private property? And there were several other things in there that I just wasn't sure on how that worked, as far as investing our money
Sure.
to raise the value of private property.
So the basic premise is that, I want to be clear before I get into too far of an answer, is that the board will have the opportunity to set parameters as to what you do want to spend money on or possibly incentivize financially versus not incentivizing. And certainly we acknowledge that there will be things that you don't want to incentivize or certain developments that you just don't want to have come, or if they are permitted, you don't want to financially incentivize them, maybe they don't need it. All I'm going to say is that a district allows you the legal opportunity to make decisions on financial matters that come before you. So let's say that there was a development that came forward on the TCF parcel, as an example, only because it's vacant, and someone said, hey, I can make this property work as long as you pay for the demolition of the building, and that's the make-whole payment that we would make out of this particular district fund. That would be a legal expenditure that we could make as a board, as a village, to make that investment work. Now, I am not saying that you should or should not do that. I am simply saying that is something you could legally consider. So yes, there is the legal possibility that money from the district could flow to a developer to do a project that the board deems financially feasible, worth doing, worth attracting to our village versus another community, or simply making something happen that we would really want to have happen in the downtown. And I think that's part of the discussion that we would have later before establishment or after it's established, is to say, what are those things that you want to incentivize and you want to put at the top of your priority list, along with a good zoning plan, which really a good zoning plan will attract the things you want in the first place, because that's how good economic development works, is we put the land use out and good things follow with good land use. I hate to be vague, but I just don't want to put the cart before the horse and say, yes, you will definitely be putting money in the hands of a developer, because you may say that that's not what you want to do, or that's not our intent, or that's not our priority with this district. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be vague. I'm just trying to say that is a legal possibility, but there's always the option of the board that you don't want to necessarily put those things first with your funding policy.
And Al, the money wouldn't be used unless the specific project came in front of this board, or who's ever sitting at this
Right.
board, and that board would vote on that project, whether or not it wants to use the money for the use that's being contemplated. It does, in theory, gives the board a lot of flexibility to bring something, as Trustee Schiappa said, that might be trying to decide from Route 83 or here, and it might be just that little bit of incentive, economic incentive, which of course municipalities do, cities do all the time in terms of tax breaks and things like that. But but this would be on a project-specific basis.
So basically, the final decision is a board decision, not the Economic Development Committee.
Oh, right, absolutely. And it would be for a specific project, not globally, here's what we're gonna use the money for.
And I would want to add to that good point. On, let's say there was a complex project, we would want, in my mind, to establish some company to help us review a lot of those decisions. So if they're asking for $2 million, we would want to have SB Freeman come back and provide us a recommendation as to what the need actually is, and do the analysis of the pro forma, and really give the board good third-party analysis that doesn't come straight from a developer or a private party. So that way you know you're making a solid decision one way or the other, and at least having all the facts in front of you.
Yes, Ken?
Thank you for answering that. I have a couple additional questions. So talking about incentivizing certain property owners, existing property owners, could funds, I'm not advocating this, but could funds be used to improve a facade, or replace a parking lot, or replace an existing monument sign?
Yes.
Okay. So the sales tax that would be collected, is it only sales tax from the business district, correct?
Sales and a hotel tax.
And the hotel, from that business district only?
And yes, and I want to clarify one small item if I may. Hotel taxes are not limited the way the traditional hotel taxes are. So we have a 4% hotel tax right now in the community that all 5 hotel properties pay into. That's the hotel motel fund. Those are restricted in large part for overnight tourism and capital expenditures. That's all you can spend on. These hotel taxes can be spent on anything defined as legal by the business district.
The incremental hotel tax?
The incremental hotel tax. That 1%, should it be enacted, could be used for any item that I listed as being a legal expenditure in the district itself. So So just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. So if I buy something over at the Shell station on Route 83, I wouldn't be paying a tax into this fund?
Correct.
Just want to clarify that for the residents. Okay, thank you. I'm curious to know how in Willowbrook they were able to create this district for the Pete's Market when there was no sales tax being generated there. The store was empty, that whole strip was empty. Maybe you can get back to me with an answer later on, or unless you have it now.
Well, I can get back to you right away. It was created as the easiest way to generate money for that district to be made whole. So Pete's came in and said, I need $6 million to make the land work.
Okay.
From an economics perspective. They said, we'll put a development district on top of it and we will rebate you that money back
Okay.
to make that project work.
Okay.
So that's an example of a private developer being incentivized by a district. That property is now paying $600,000 a year in sales taxes. So it's paying for itself, and it also paid for a complete rebuild of the I-83 Plainfield intersection, as well as adding an additional signalized intersection just by the creation of the district.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. That's a creative financing tool that seemed to work out well and benefit that particular parcel that was blighted. If this were to be enacted in this district, what would be the overall sales tax rate for the retailers?
Retailers would be 10.25 in the downtown.
Okay. When do we get the opportunity to discuss this report presented by Friedman in detail? Will that be coming up in a future meeting?
Yes, you'll have at least one additional board meeting to discuss this, at which point Friedman will be here to present additionally at that point and/or discuss any questions you may have with them.
I have some questions on some of the assumptions, and I have some questions on path forward and things like that. So I would like to have the opportunity to discuss that with them and possibly any members of the EDC that might want to attend as well.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Russ?
Clarification.
Sure.
Trustee Francis said if he got gas at the Shell, he would be paying 1% more,
No.
or would not? Would not, okay. It's
Got to
just
be in that.
inside the
In
business
fact,
district.
to be even clearer about this, 4 of our 5 hotels would not be part of this.
Correct.
Yeah.
So only the Marriott.
Okay.
It is, and hence, the money can only be used here too. Same thing, you can't get this money, and then if the Shell gas station wants something and we think it's a good idea, well, we can't help them with this money. You can only help if a board that's sitting at the time wants to do something, it has to be done in this district. So that's why it's important to know where the boundaries are. And of course, within this boundary, just so everybody understands, is the TCF property, which is one of the visions that we have to look at. And so getting the right business in there or businesses in there is going to be crucial, and this may provide this board with a little bit more tools, a few more tools in the toolbox to get the right one here. Yes, Guy?
Sorry, one more question.
Sure.
At the meetings of the Economic Development Commission, I would assume that some of the businesses and retailers were present. What was their initial feedback on this concept?
I can speak because at the time I was chairing during that time, so I can tell you. Everyone that came, not that they came in hordes, but 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 businesses that did come, they were all for it.
Okay, thank you.
And did I get that right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even the owner of the Village Center is very much in favor of this.
Yeah, and then the businesses within the Village Center
Right.
were also in favor. That's the more important.
That's what I was asking about.
You're right, and of course, this might also be, as you can see, County Line Square is also included.
Yep.
Which I know has been on our minds also, okay? So, with that, is there any questions from the public? And this will come in front of the board, and again, but this is just the first step. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Michael?
Evan, is it possible for you to just go over briefly the timing deadlines for the collection of business development district
Yes.
taxes? There's a deadline of October 1st, for I believe it's a January implementation.
Over to you.
No, I'm not certain of that, so I want you to.
That's okay. Who's on first
But
base?
you're close.
I'm close.
You
but
got it right
I'm
on,
guessing,
actually.
yes.
So
Yeah.
there are two annual deadlines to establish a district, October 1st and April 1st. The taxes begin to be collected in the January or July months after the deadline that you hit on, and then the revenue does not occur until 3 more months later because the sales tax is held by the state. So if we were operating under the assumption that we have an October 1st deadline to pass this fall, if it were to pass, of course, we would have another opportunity, then that money would not be collected until October of '22. If we meet the October 1st deadline, the revenue would begin in April of '22, which means that we would have a full fiscal year '23 of revenue collection, along with 4 months of fiscal '22, for that particular timing to be met. So again, October 1st is our fall deadline to have this approved in ordinance form after a public hearing, sent to the state in an authorized form, which is complicated talk, but it's really just us mailing them the ordinance at this point. So thank you for pointing that out. My account, we have 4 meetings until the deadline. Really, the last one this fall will be September 27th that we could do it this fall. But we set it out where you'd have 3 board meetings and an EDC on a September 13th deadline to pass.
Okay.
All right. So with that, can I get a motion? I think it is a motion to direct staff to draft an ordinance to establish the business district?
There's a couple items here. So the first thing would be to direct staff to place an ordinance on the August 23rd agenda, establishing a public hearing on September 13th, as well as establishing an ordinance for that same discussion to approve a district. Now, again, you can vote that down. I'm not saying that the approval is, you're committing to an approval tonight. I'm just saying that there are 3 separate motions. I'm sorry, there's 3 separate actions on that one motion. So again, direct us to have an August 23rd ordinance to establish the public hearing on September 13th. On September 13th, you'd have the public hearing at the beginning of the meeting. On that same agenda, you'd have the ordinance to approve the district in final form.
And the taxes?
And the taxes. Correct, thank you.
Did you get that?
And then it would be approved on October 1st. And
It would be
Well, we're
approved
hoping-
prior to October 1st.
Prior.
We would take your approval, we would send it to the state, and the state would verify that the taxes have been legally imposed and the district meets the qualifications which we're confident they have.
Okay. So, everybody understand the motion? I don't want to restate it because I probably misstated. So, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Do I have a second? Pavesa, second. Okay, any further discussion? Any further public comment or questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Sapp.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Mattel.
yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
So,
6-0, the motion passes. Okay, that takes us to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board? This is your time. Okay, let the record show no public comment. That takes us to 10, reports and communications from village officials. Who wants to start?
All right.
Anita?
I can start. I want to welcome Hannah White. She's our new community engagement analyst, and she's hit the ground running. She's already on the ground and doing a great job. For all of you who did not attend the concert last Thursday, they're back, and it's like they never stopped. It was just amazing to see everyone there, and people were so happy. So please attend the concerts, and hopefully the weather god will smile upon us, and we'll have good weather and enjoy the season. We're also getting ready for Taste of Burr Ridge and the car show, and more information will follow. But please participate in all the activities in the village. There are really
Right.
some good ones.
And we want to thank Anita because she's doing all the hard work, especially with Janet. And so Hannah's welcomed, I know, good timing. But Anita has picked
And
up
I have to
the
staff,
rest.
I have to thank Evan because he's the one who's coordinating everything.
Well, good. We haven't skipped a beat, and as you said, I was there Thursday night too, and I was glad not to see 2,000 people there, but it was certainly a healthy crowd.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Great. Anybody else? Okay, I have just a couple things. Russ, I did want to address what you were saying, but I was going to bring it from a different viewpoint. But we will be getting federal money, more federal money. All municipalities are. I think our number is somewhere around 1.4. So imagine what some other villages are getting because it's per capita. So, you know. But 1.4 is a lot of money for us, and so I intend to have not only workshops with the trustees as to what can we do with it, first of all, and then what should we do with it, but also with the public. Since we are a small village, we can have those types of discussions and get village input on that, and at that time, also start educating everyone to, while there is this debt coming up on the police station, the fact of the matter is, if we wanted to pay it off, we have the money to pay it off. Is that the best use of our money? You know, probably likely not, but that should be a discussion. And also the police pension, which in relative terms, we are actually in very good shape in relative terms, but that's in relation to a lot of villages that are in very bad shape. All the pensions need to be addressed. We certainly should address ours, and we also have the financial wherewithal for those options. So the good news overall for Burr Ridge is we're getting federal money like every other village. Our debt could be paid off on the police department if we wanted to, so we can discuss that and have the flexibility. And the police pension, we could also infuse money into that if that was what the public and what the board wanted to do. But those are good questions, and those are the types of things that we're going to have a forum on and get input from the public. And so I fully intend to have that happen. Also, just chiming in on the concerts, I'm just reminding everybody that they are now Thursdays, not Fridays. That next Thursday will be Brooklyn Charmers, a Steely Dan band. Most people don't even know who Steely Dan, what that band was. I remember, but and then after that, and I'm going to miss that one, is the Billy Elton one, which is Billy Joel and Elton John music. And that's kind of my favorite, so I'm sorry I'm missing that one. So please gather your families and friends and come out to the Village Center on Thursday nights and enjoy our concerts. Everyone, next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, August 18, the Secretary of State Mobile DMV will be here at Village Hall from 10 to 2. You can renew your driver's license, obtain the sticker for your license plates, and get a state ID. You cannot get the real ID, which is still being issued. You cannot do that on this program, but you can come for everything else on August 18th. Okay, with that, unless there's anyone else, can I get a motion to adjourn to August 23rd at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.